This is Matt for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store. Delighted to be joined by Frank Smith. Frank, appreciate giving us some time. I know you've just done a couple of interviews before. First off, before we talk boxing, how are you? Everything good?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Don't question the hat. Andy Purnell thinks it's because I had a hair transplant.
Not been to Turkey, I don't know.
Just got back from Istanbul. Lovely weather. I do a good job, actually. You'd never know I had it done.
Fantastic. We'll have a look at that after. What a fight week, by the way. It's not often we see a voluntary of such risk given by a champion. What does that say about Leigh Wood? The fact he's gone, you know what? Forget Kiko. With all due respect to Kiko, go out there and go get me Lara. What does it say about him and his character as a champion to come into this as well as he's a massive underdog again?
Yeah, look, if you looked at this fight, you'd think it was a mandatory. To go and select Mauricio Lara, you'd think he's an absolute madman. He maybe sees things we don't see. Leigh Wood's a terrific fighter. We've seen what is Mauricio Lara's the main members behind Mauricio Lara here. I have to be careful what I say in case they come over. No, but look, Leigh Wood's a fantastic fight. We saw in the fight against Michael Conlon how much heart he showed, from early on in that fight as well. Leigh holds a lot of power. It's one of those where it could go either way. It could, in the first round, could all be a it could set fire in the first round and it could end there. It could go 12 rounds. But I think, you got to commend him because no one else is taking these sort of risks for a mandatory. He could have come here and had like you say, even Kiko Martinez would have been a great fight as well.
That's still a great fight. I love Kiko.
Great fight, and Kiko Martinez always turns up. But he wanted to take the real test, and you have to commend him for that because there's not many people doing that in the sport right now.
There's also sort of a big carrot being dangled as well. He's been spoken about the City Ground for so long now, but he's actually had that meet up with Josh Warrington and Lara as well now with the face-offs at the City Ground, and he said, look, I'll clear up this Mexican mess that you made and then we can do it without looking past this week. But if everything does go right for Leigh Wood, that is an unbelievable fight just in terms of atmosphere and build-up excitement. There'll be so many that come from Leeds, so many from Nottingham. How much of a buzz would it be to do that fight at the City Ground and deliver for Leigh? Because he's at this point now, he needs that sort of defining moment in a big stadium.
Lee's a great guy, and see how he's turned his life around and his career around. From that Kanzu win at fight camp in the Garden. It's been what a journey it's been. Like you say, the atmosphere you'd have in there with Josh Warrington and Leigh Wood's fans. What we saw when we did Michael Conlon, and we sort of split the arena in half. The atmosphere we had in there that night, a bit like when Carl Frampton fought Josh Warrington in Manchester. A bit like when Carl Frampton fought Scott Quigg as well. These are huge nights and huge fights, and it's an interesting time for the division because there's so many big fights to be made. You've got the likes of, we've got Leigh Wood, Mauricio Lara tomorrow night. You've got Josh Warrington's ready and waiting. You've got Kiko Martinez who's going off to fight IBF for the mandatory position. Michael Conlon as well, looking at fighting, I believe, Lopez, both with Top Rank. An interesting fight as well. So there's lots of interesting fights to go around over the next 12 to 18 months in the division. And but to deliver an event like that at the City Ground would be unbelievable. Obviously, a few hurdles to overcome with the football season. Yeah. Never easy, but let's see. But the first focus has to be Saturday night. Tough fight for him, but get through that and a big night to come.
There's a lot of excitement on the undercard as well. We won't go through everyone, but just a couple that I picked out. Gary Cully, I think, up until last year, I think everyone in boxing, I was speaking about him for years, and like I said, Junaid Boston on this card, high quality. I wouldn't say Gary's really a prospect anymore, but they're exciting to watch. How impressed are you with these young talents on the card? And obviously Gary's talked about going and fighting on Katie Taylor's on the card. It's exciting times for the future of the sport.
Yeah, look, 100%. Really excited by Gary Cully. I think it was a great signing. Nearly a year ago in this arena where he fought Miguel Vasquez. A great fight there. Had the fight on our Wembley show as well. Great finish there on the Katie Taylor undercard. Get through this. Obviously, all eyes set on May 20 in Dublin for him. You obviously got. You've got Dalton Smith as well against Billy Allington. Second defence of his British title. Get through this. A big fight. A headline fight we're looking at for April that we should announce soon for him. In Sheffield with the Harper Breakus fight on there as well. You got Chef Clark, a fighter I'm really impressed by, who's moved a lot quicker than originally anticipated. He wants to move up. Real shame about Dex Spellman. Our thoughts with him, obviously, but a great fight. We've got, I think it's going to be a great fight. He's in on Saturday. Gamal Yafire's back out. Janae Boston, as you say, who's a real exciting prospect. He wants to move quickly. Aaron Bowen's professional debut. Someone who, there's been a lot of talk about. Looking forward to seeing him out. Kieran Conway's back as well. Sam Maxwell on the card. So, it's a stacked card and a good way to start the year for us here in the UK.
With Matchroom now being this global powerhouse, and Eddie always says, look, we're the only ones doing it global in this way. It feels like such a long time since we've done a UK show. Has there been more attention on just hitting that market abroad, or is it just how it's landed?
No, look, I think the focus of what I'll be honest with you, January's a tough month. January's a tough month with fighters wanting to train over Christmas, part reality, and tickets. It's a tough time of the year. So our focus really was February, to get things up and running for February. We started off with a great card at the theatre. Serrano with a brilliant fight against Cruz. Alicia Baumgardner becoming undisputed. Richardson Hitchens with a great performance. Sky Nicholson, Ramla Ali with good wins as well. Shadisa Green was on that card. So it was a real strong start to the year. Got this. I think we've got an unrivalled schedule. When you look up until the summer, with stuff still to be made as well for April, May, June. Still to be announced. I don't think anyone's doing what we're doing on a global scale. It was a bit late announcing because we were working on trying to get as much as possible out there together. But now we're up and running. You're going to see more shows announced as we go, and a big schedule.
One of the shows that were announced was obviously Anthony Joshua, Jermaine Franklin. Normally we see after AJ's fight's been announced there's a post saying tickets are all sold out, and it normally happens very quickly. We haven't seen anything that yet. I just wondered, what are the ticket sales like for Joshua's fight, and do you think his recent run of form's had any impact on the sales?
Now look, we sold about 12,000 tickets. We literally went on sale 2 days after we announced it. It was all quite rushed. You got to think there hasn't been a payday the first payday was at the end of Jan since Christmas, and look, I'm not concerned at all. AJ always delivers, AJ always sells. There's no one else really selling that many tickets in that period of time anyway. So, it's. But I'm very confident it will get to a sellout come April 1st at the O2.
What do you make of his comments about? It's all about the money, bringing in the money. Now, I said this to Darren Barker, I said, AJ can be a bit playful and sometimes just think, it doesn't really matter what I say, I'll tell you what, take that and run with it, do what you want, because I don't believe that, him coming back, I say coming back, he fought last year, but as in, it's just about the money. It has to be about that fight, that dog, to get a belt back. What did you make of the comments, and is it just AJ being, go on, take that comment and run with it?
Yeah, did anyone ask him after about the comments?
I weren't there, I definitely would have done.
But look, this guy has made a lot of money, loads of money, more money than I ever imagined he'd make. But he deserves it. He deserves every penny. Of course, everyone in their jobs, we all do it partly for money. Is a reason why. That's just natural. Otherwise, you have to. Part of you has to have that in there. But when you look at him, he's moved to Dallas to improve and keep building in his career. If he was just about the money, just get some local train around the corner, turn up to the fights, not make much effort. This is a brutal sport, probably one of the most brutal sports you can be involved in. So if it's just about the money, that he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. Everything, he wants to keep improving, he wants to keep growing in the sport, he wants to become undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, as was the aim previously. I take it with a pinch of salt. As I say, everyone has a part of you where you do what you do for money. But like I say, he's made a lot of other sacrifices. And I think the focus, from knowing him for a long time, he just wants to get better and better.
Now, I know you didn't say this, but Eddie mentioned that in the summer, if Fury's struggling, obviously Usyk's not been announced yet. It was supposed to have been happening, I think they said originally in February. It's rolled on a bit, don't look like it's going to be in Saudi Arabia. If it does happen, we think it'll be at Wembley, but he said in the summer, AJ might be ready to go for that Fury fight. This time round, because obviously we're talking about this since, 2017, maybe a bit after. Couldn't get made recently. Why would you be confident in it getting made this time round when there was hurdles before that we couldn't get over?
Yeah, I think it can be made. No, I'm sure that there was such tight time frames around that fight.
Yeah.
You know, whatever people say, this is when we're fighting, this is when we're doing it, this is when you know, and they were really the stumbling blocks.
Yeah.
They haven't had that with the Usyk fight. Like, what are we? We are February 17th. He fought December 3rd.
Yeah.
So it's been 7 weeks since he fought, 6-7 weeks since he boxed. But no one said anything about time frames for that fight. For Fury, I hope Fury Usyk gets made though, because it's the undisputed heavyweight championship. AJ can fight the winner of it. I think the struggle they're going to have is obviously Usyk agreed a package from what
For Saudi,
yeah. Which I think Frank Warren and Bob Arum said, and it was down to the Fury side to agree Tyson's package, and that's what didn't get agreed. So I think the issue will be trying to get Usyk the amount of money or anywhere near what he'd agreed for Saudi to do it at Wembley is going to be a real struggle.
Yeah, I mean, you guys often talk about it, promoters, managers, commercially. When you're negotiating a deal, sometimes obviously Anthony Joshua is one of the biggest stars in the sport, and rightfully so. In a fight against certain fighters, he takes more than the lion's share because he's the man that people are coming to see. So from Fury's point of view, do you think he's looking at Usyk going, hang on, if you're coming to this country, these fans, the majority, unless you're hardcore and you're coming from Ukraine or wherever to see him, they're here for me, so I should be getting more. But then there's the value of the belts as well. So do you think that's going to be ultimately where this fight maybe does fall apart if it did?
Yeah, like, I think it has to be a 50-50 fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The UK?
Yeah, because it's undisputed. You know, Usyk's built his own name now. He's beat Anthony Joshua twice. He's beat Tony Bellew. You know, he's done it all. It was different in Saudi because the way they were looking at it was you agree your fee, I agree my fee.
Yeah.
That's fine. You take what you're happy with. Okay. But I think on this front, I think it's going to be I don't know the exact numbers involved in it all, but I can guess and I understand the market. It's going to be difficult, I think, to give Usyk less than 50-50 to get him anywhere where he needs to be to get him comfortable like he would have been with the Saudi Arabian numbers.
Fair point. Another fight that obviously we're talking about getting made. Well, not just made, but more of a venue. How was your trip to Ireland? Did you enjoy the Forge Inn? I know you went there, Forge Inn, Conor McGregor. Have a few beers? Let yourself let loose a bit before the negotiations?
I didn't let loose. I had an Apple Proper 12.
Any good?
It's been quite nice to be fair. I don't really like whiskey. It's too strong and sort of gets you. But the Apple, very good. Yeah, might get some for home. Although I think it's sold out everywhere. Yeah. Didn't have much left anyway. That was interesting. Look, nice place he's got there. Yeah. You know, and plans all set in motion. You know, Dublin, May 20th. Get things up and running and get Katie Taylor back there.
May 20th though for the 3 Arena, is you saying, because it's the time scales and a rugby match is happening? Yeah,
there's a rugby match at Aviva obviously that same day. I think 3 Arena is obviously the focus for us now. So you know that's what we're looking towards. Let's see. Hopefully some news soon. Yeah, I mean look, the main focus though is May 20th. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. Our goal is to take Katie back to Dublin for the first time in her professional career. We said we'd do that after the fight against Cabajal, and that's what we plan on doing, and obviously announced for May 20th in Dublin. You know, we want to give her that big night. So yeah, first focus May 20th, and go from there.
Conor Benn, I think myself sort of feel like I have to ask you about it because we only get updates off you guys, the proper updates, because you are the ones who work with him. Any closer to seeing him return? Let me ask you that.
Look, we're waiting obviously on the WBC piece, VADA, you know, and we thought that would be a couple of weeks ago now, obviously slight delay on that. You know, the aim is to Conor's focus has been to clear his name. It always has been, and then to focus on the return. You know, and he continues to do that. His team are working through it currently, and hopefully have news soon. But you know, he's fully committed to clearing his name and then get back in the ring in the biggest possible fights.
Robert Smith made an appearance on TalkSport. I know you guys don't always have the best relationship with Simon Jordan at all, really, but he obviously were questioning Robert about the timings and things like that. I asked Eddie about it. Did you see any of it? What do you make of it if you have?
No, the only thing I saw
Clips.
is I saw a minute clip or something about the time frames.
Yeah.
Where they were talking about the time frames of knowing things. Now, look, the reality is Robert Smith and the British Boxing Board of Control knew everything the whole way along. They're the sanctioning organisation for the sport of boxing in the in the UK. Their job is to deliver the sport in the safest possible way, and for the good of everything in the sport. They could have made their decision. When the original test came out, they worked all the way through it. They knew about it the whole way through. They were dealing with it, and they decided on the Wednesday morning. They told us that they weren't sanctioning the fight. We're essentially led by the British Boxing Board of Control.
Yeah.
That's their job, to run the sport of boxing here.
Yeah.
So we're led by them and their decisions. So, I didn't see enough of the interview, though, to have a view on what Robert's responses were. If you want to tell me anything, then I'll answer it, but I can't give you too much because I didn't see it all.
There was only one segment, so we could ask this to Blue in the face. Ultimately, there's legal proceedings in the background, and he even made reference to that when answering some of Simon Jordan's questions, because Simon will, obviously he's not filtered, he'll say what he wants. I know he's...
Oh, really?
I know he's had a pop at you before, but I think they were saying, he asked him a question about timings and why weren't told sooner, and I think Robert alluded to, look, we were going back and forth with legal, and then we told everybody as soon as they could, to which Eddie's response was, well, no. Kind of thing you knew way back then, etc. Do you feel a bit let down by this whole situation? Because at the time, the first thing everyone was saying was, and maybe rightfully so, because we don't know anything, was, why weren't you guys calling the fight off? Why weren't Eddie saying, no, fight's off regardless, kind of thing? Feel a bit let down by it all?
Yeah, look, boxing's a tough sport, and people have a lot of opinions without any real knowledge of what's gone on.
Yeah.
And that's the world today. That's social media, isn't it? Everyone's got an expert. Everyone knows every single detail, and if they don't know every single detail, they create an illusion of what has happened. I read so many things and go, well, you don't know what you're talking about. As I say, the British Boxing Board of Control's job is to safely run the sport of boxing here. We answer in every day to the British Boxing Board of Control in all areas of what we do, and we follow their rules. They made a decision. They could have made it earlier. They could have spoken out about it was really on the British Boxing Board of Control, and for us as we followed every guideline we had to, but it was on them as the sanctioning entity of the sport to make a decision. They made that decision, but they made that decision on Wednesday at 10 a.m. I think we said it. We would love to have known about it weeks before. We wouldn't have spent as much money. So we were waiting for the British Boxing Board of Control's decision. You have to really ask them and to go in more detail with them as to why they didn't make a decision prior to that. And that's only a question they can answer. I can't answer it. I can't ring them and say you can't sanction this fight. It's not mine. I can't do that.
It seems a bit strange how long it went for it to be dropped like that, and I suppose we'll only ever know when proceedings are released or ever it maps out. Anyway, two more from me. Deontay Wilder's come out and said that he's an open agent. I spoke to Eddie about this. Whenever Deontay Wilder's name comes up, because of previous negotiations, I think in a bygone year, Eddie's very reluctant, I think, to sometimes talk about him and say, well, yeah, I'd love to sign him, we're having good communications, but someone you'd like to work with, I'm sure you'd have a few heavyweights that'd jump at the chance of fighting him. I'm thinking your Dillian Whites, Anthony Joshua's, Deontay Wilder. We'll ask if you're in talks, but very interested in working with him.
Look, every promoter, broadcaster, network, whatever it is, wants to work with Deontay Wilder. You'd be mad not to. He's a huge star. He's one of the biggest stars in the sport. Always delivers entertainment in every fight. So yeah, of course we'd love to work with him. Let's see how it plays out. I read the same comments you read today on his, where I think it was on Twitter saying, I'm free to work with anyone, still have a relationship with PBC, but free to work with anyone. Look, I'm sure he's going to have every man and their dog onto him to try and sign Deontay Wilder. We'd love to be a part of those discussions, so let's see.
Yeah, if you think about if you were to get a relationship with him, touch wood for you guys, I suppose, that AJ comes through. you've got a lot of options for the summer. AJ White Wilder, AJ Wilder. I mean, AJ Wilder's at one time, and even now, it's one of the biggest fights that can be made in boxing, isn't it? That is one of them, isn't it?
Look, I will get shot down for this. I think AJ Wilder is bigger than Usyk Fury. I'm not asking for you to agree or disagree.
I'm mulling that over
Yeah.
in terms of this for undisputed, for all the belts. It's not very often we see it undisputed, but in terms of maybe a coin flip of what could happen in that fight, maybe for excitement, I don't know.
Yeah, look, I think again maybe it's a commercial view. Commercially, I think it's the biggest fight out there in the heavyweight division, as well as AJ against Fury as well.
Last one from me. I'm not going to ask you to predict a winner between Fury and Jake Paul, but I want you to get your opinion on the fact that apparently whoever wins will be ranked by the WBC, or more specifically, they've been saying Jake Paul be ranked by the
top 40 or something. Ranked in the top 40.
Yeah, ranked in the WBC. But do you think, in terms of the opponents they've both had, that they deserve a ranking in the WBC?
I've got to be honest. I haven't watched enough of Tommy Fury over the years, right, to give you a view on Tommy Fury's boxing, right? But let's put it this way. If Tommy Fury was ranked in the top 40 of the WBC, I don't think anyone would have any problems with it. Top 40 of the WBC rankings. I don't believe so. I think people would go, fair enough, professional boxer. So if Jake Paul beats him, that's more the question. Would anyone care if Tommy Fury was in the top 40? What do you think?
Maybe not.
Yeah. So does Jake Paul beating him mean he deserves? Yeah, probably. But
it's a mad world that I've been asking these questions, to be honest.
I know, but at least with Jake Paul, he's taken it. Like, the funny thing is, people have asked forever. He's got to fight a boxer. Now he's fighting Tommy Fury again. I don't know enough about Tommy Fury.
It's a valid match. It's a valid fight. Yeah. I don't care what anyone says. This is a professional boxer.
Yeah. So, and if Jake Paul wasn't as famous as he was, no one would care. He'd just be another boxer fighting Tommy Fury. Yeah. But it's the fact that there's such a scene around it, and it's like I saw what Frank Warren said about it the other day. Like, if this was just an 8-round fight on an undercard somewhere, would anyone have a problem with it? No. Just because they both built a store, because they're getting paid a load of money for it, and quite rightly so. They've built profiles for themselves. They deserve it. They should maximise their earnings off the back of what they've built for themselves. I don't mind that, and I think, at least again with Jake, he's taking the sport seriously. So
interesting times. Look, Frank, appreciate your time. We'll catch up maybe after the fight, and thanks for talking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you for that.